On March 25, 1911, the Triangle Shirtwaist Company factory in New York City burned, killing 145 workers. It is remembered as one of the most infamous incidents in American industrial history, as the deaths were largely preventable. Most of the victims died as a result of neglected safety features and locked doors within the factory building. The tragedy brought widespread attention to the dangerous sweatshop conditions of factories and led to the development of a series of laws and regulations that better protected the safety of workers.
My name is Celia Saltz Pollock. I worked at Triangle for about a year before the fire. I started first to work for a contractor in the shop, and I made about $3 a week. There were lots of inside contractors in the shop. Each one hired his own girls. We did not know the prices for the work. Only he did, and only he paid us. I worked up from $3 until I was making as much as $10 a week. I remember I sat near the back door in the elevator. The door was locked. On the day of the fire, there was a lot of singing and happiness in the shop because it was the end of the week and we got paid. We were soon all going to go home. When the fire started, I was sitting at my machine. I looked up and saw the fire near the cutting tables, but I did not think it was too terrible. What was terrible was that the fire spread in a split second. All around me, the others were screaming and hollering. The door was locked, and I pushed over to the door of the elevator. When the elevator stopped on our floor, I was swept into it by the pushing crowd. I lost my sister, and I didn't know where she was. When I came outside, I first realized how terrible the fire was. Many from the 8th floor were saved, but the elevator came up only once. I was 18 years old.
My name is Sylvia, and I am a tucker that worked on the 8th floor. I was in a dressing room across the building when I started to hear screaming. Shortly after, I began to choke on the black smoke. By the grace of 2 men, somehow I made it out by the stairway. When we got to the doorway, the firemen wouldn't let us out due to fear of debris hitting us on our way out. When we finally made it across the street, debris was still falling.
I'm Max Hodgfield, and my sister Esther Hodgfield died in the fire. We immigrated here in 1910, and that's when Esther encouraged me to get a man's job, as she called it, at the factory, being an operator. A few nights before the fire, she was celebrating her engagement with her new husband, and the next day we didn't show up to work, but on the day of the fire, they moved her to the 9th floor. I was trying to get back into the building while it was on fire, but the officers stopped me before I could go in. I sometimes wonder that if she wouldn't have gotten engaged, that maybe she would still be alive today.
Hello, my name is Frances Perkins. I was having tea in Greenwich Village with my friend, Mrs. Morgan Norrie, on March 25th, 1911. We heard clanging of fire truck bells and screams. We ran from the house, leaving our tea. I was horrified to see flames and black smoke shoot from the top floors. There was no place to go. The fire was between them and any means of escape. I shall never forget the frozen horror that came across as we stood with our hands on our throats, watching the horrible sight, knowing that there was no hope for them. This has inspired me these past 3 years as much as it has broken my heart. I hope to use my career as a social worker to help save women like those.
My name is Bessie Cohen. At the time of the fire, my name was Bessie Gavrilowicz. That day, I was working with my friend Dora, and we had just talked about her getting a raise from $1.50 to $2. I had told her to just go up to her boss and ask. At the time, I was teaching a coworker a dance move. We were having a break because somebody on the 9th floor got engaged, so there was a cake that day. The fire had been going on for 15 minutes, and we had no idea 30% of the women had died in the building. Once we realized the fire was happening, one of our foremen yelled at me and told me to save myself. I turned around to see where Dora was. She was there 1 minute, and the next minute she was gone. She had fell out the window. I remember what saved my life that day. I had stood there and listened to my bosses. They had been running up to the 9th floor to the roof so that the firemen could reach them. Little did we know that the firemen's ladders would only reach the 7th floor, but we managed to make it out. You know what the family got in the fire? They got paid $75 for being locked and losing their lives. It's the worst day of my life.